I'm Dave.
And I'm Shali,
and this is GottaSing.com,
your online vocal resource.
Okay, our student is Allie again. Come in here, Allie. Woo, yay. How are you?
Fabulous.
Good. So, we're going to talk about some of the things you learned vocally when you're at Circle and Square, New York this summer. And go ahead.
And you were just talking in the last lesson about the speech or the singing being an extension of speech, and that
Absolutely.
you, through a normal cry or through just a normal circumstance, yelling something because say you were afraid that somebody was going to go across the street, or the dog, like ours always does, that you normally would just, without thinking, you just stop. Well, you use that as an extension to the singing voice, and so I want you to demonstrate again.
Okay.
What you did, and then we'll talk about how you access it for an actual vocal line.
Okay. So this is the cry.
Let me get ready.
Oh! Oh, no!
Okay, notice how she went from this, that's called a vocal fry, and she just lets it go into an actual sound, intoning a sound. So do it one more time.
Okay. The fry?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no!
Now allow it to go higher.
Oh, no!
This is going to kill our camera guy with the sound. Okay, now I want you to get up into there and hold on to it and actually create a singing tone to it.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, no!
That's so awesome.
That
I
sounds
love
great.
it. It gives me chills.
Now, I want Shelley to demonstrate that same thing because I want to talk about age and singing. How old are you, Allison?
22.
22. Okay, Shelley, do the same
And
thing.
I'm Gourmet.
Yeah. We don't say how old we are, but we're old.
All right, and you know, it doesn't really matter what your age is. There's development that has to happen sequentially. It doesn't matter when you start. I sang my whole life, but had a sweet, pure tone without much vibrato. I had all kinds of vocal issues that I had developed over the years because I hadn't had any training, and didn't go into actual getting training until I was 40. And that's why I say, I'm older. And so I've had to go through the same incremental process that anybody does. And I used to get really, really frustrated in my voice lessons that I wasn't able to accomplish something else this fast. And my voice teacher would always say, Shali, you can't expect that before you've gone through this part of it. And so I'd have to be patient with my voice and the changes that occurred. And even from the time that I started to now, I've had a lot of physical changes that have happened over that time. And so I'm just learning over this last year some of these things that I just figured out on my own, and realizing that it was just an extension of my speaking or screaming voice, whatever it is. Okay?
We've had 4 children and lots of dogs. We do a lot of screaming.
Well, and on another lesson, I would like to talk about what screaming does to your voice, and a lot of talking, because I had to actually, when I started voice, stop screaming at my kids, which I was a screamer. And so I had to develop other ways of calling them, so I learned to whistle really loud. And they just naturally say, what? So anyway, here's what I'd go from just a slide to find that voice. So I just, and it's still a much brighter placement than I normally was trying to use for classical voice. She and I were just having a discussion before the cameras got turned back on about how sometimes when we're doing different types of training, we get stuck thinking that we have to produce the same voice in each part of our range, in each register.
Yeah, absolutely. So this summer I was able to study with Phil Hall in New York, and in one of our lessons he was explaining to me the kind of expectation that you build of yourself and that you give your audience when you're able to sing with a really warm, rich chest voice or belt, and then feeling like you have to carry that up into your head voice or your mix. And so
And we tend to get thinking the same thing when we're doing classical production,
yeah,
etc.
Absolutely. And so he was able to kind of break me of that mentality of feeling like I had to sing with a really rich, warm, natural chest voice and still be able to make that sound in a classical voice, which isn't realistic, and you have to modify. But there's still that access. You can still access it with this technique, but it's not the same voice. You can't expect yourself to use the same voice in that.
Demonstrate both voices. Do a little bit of a classical production.
Maybe just a slide.
Where do you feel it?
Some classical placement.
And tell them where you feel it differently than you do when you're using the more forward placement.
So just do a slide. Yeah, just a.
Yeah, and where do you feel that in your mouth? Or the throat? Where do you feel it?
When it started.
It's really flat against my tongue, but it's not right up against the hard palate. It's not as forward, I think.
Right.
Okay. Now do the same slide with that forward kind of, Where do you feel that?
Right up against the hard palate.
Don't you? Yeah, it's right there. Yeah. Right. I always go to I'm like, aha! Feel it right there. Yeah, it is. It's right there, and it's different placement, and we use that different placement for different types of songs and different type of singing. Yeah. Like we always call the classical voice, we call it the legit voice. It doesn't work for certain things. You can't show up at an audition for something and use your classical voice when you're auditioning for something that should be, bright forward placement.
Or something where you got these really bright, girly voices and stuff.
Yeah.
You just couldn't use that same placement.
Yeah.
So I had a really hard time figuring that out when I was in voice lessons, and one day the teacher just said, you know what, why are you trying to create the same quality, the same richness and everything up in the other part of your register? First of all, you're not using the full vocal folds the same way when you get up into the high registers, and it's stretched, so you're not going to get that same vibration and warmth up in the higher registers. So she was trying to describe some of those things, and finally I figured it out. But it's taken me a while.
And if you don't know what the vocal folds look like, go to DVD 1, lesson 3, and we actually have medical animation there where you'll see it's animated, so it's not the real thing. But we have how the vocal folds work, and you'll understand what we're talking about just a little bit more. So anyways, this is such a journey, isn't it? I mean, look where you started and where you are now. It is such a journey. And it's also that we can tell a story and we can sing with our hearts and do what we love to do. So keep going on your journey.
And just last thing about that is that don't think that just because you discover some other styles or placements within the mouth that it can't be used for another style of singing. So now that she's found that brighter, more head voice and more forward placement, she's actually going to be able to utilize it in some of her classical singing for her senior year. So don't be afraid to experiment with the different placements.
Definitely.
All right, and if you have any questions and you want to find out the answers, let us know.
See you later.